Tish here. School's out, but learning never ends. It's quiz time. Let's see how much you know of Revolutionary War. Remember to watch to the end and see what my little Chachi Marie is doing back home. Let's start with the first question. On April 19th, 1775, Thomas Gage, who was the royal governor of Boston, heard about a storage of weapons that the colonists had stowed away in Concord. How many British redcoats came to find those weapons? 900. That's a ton of people. How many miles did they walk from Boston up to Concord? They left about midnight and they walked 20 miles up to Lexington because it was first before they got to Concord. They were met there by the town's militia. What were those militia men called? They were called Minutemen because they needed to be ready at a minute's notice. They were just the guys, the shopkeepers, the farmers, anyone who had a stake in protecting their homes. That's who came to fight. How many Minutemen were there to confront this huge amount of redcoats? There were only 70 there. Well, John Parker had a very famous quote, and it said, "Don't fire unless what?" Yes, John Parker said, "Stand your ground. Don't fire unless fired upon, but if they mean to have a war, let it begin here." Like, don't start it. Well, nobody really knows who actually shot that first shot, but we tend to think it's the British because, they started it. What was that called? It was called the shot heard what? The shot heard round the world. Now, 8 patriots were killed and 10 were wounded. So we lost the Battle of Lexington. Those 900 men then marched up to Concord in order to find the weapons that had been stored. Did they find the weapons? No. Paul Revere and his friends, they made sure that they moved all those weapons to a different location. So the redcoats burned down the buildings, made a big ruckus. And do you know what those militiamen did? They chased them all the way back to Boston, 20 miles, shot at them, chased them all the way back, and they couldn't believe it. Here we are, chasing the superpower of the world all the way back to Boston. Awesome. So we have the Battle of Lexington was won by the British. The Battle of Concord was won by the Patriots. A few months later, the colonists had pretty much run out of ammunition. And the redcoats had 2,400 people go across Boston Harbor and march up this big hill towards the militiamen. Now, the militiamen were digging in, and they made a gallant effort at what battle in June of 1775? That is called the Battle of Bunker Hill. Now, there's a very famous quote from the Battle of Bunker Hill. They didn't have much ammunition. So the commander there said, "Don't fire unless you see what?" Don't fire unless you see the whites of their eyes. Let them get up close and then fire. Don't waste your ammunition. The colonists made a great fight against the British, 2,400 of them, but they ran out of ammunition. They had to retreat. So the British won the third battle of Bunker Hill. You're doing great, and we're almost done. We just have one more battle to go. Now, here is a tough one because you might not know this story very well. There was a takeover of a certain area in Boston. What was that takeover called? The takeover was called Dorchester Heights. It was this fancy neighborhood in Boston. Now, finally, General Washington was there, and he wanted big, heavy guns, cannons, to come all the way down from Fort Ticonderoga, 300 miles in the ice and the snow, in order to surprise which general in Boston? That general's name was General Howe. Now, General Howe was at the middle of Boston, and George Washington brought his guns up to point straight down at him in one night. I believe that was God's providence because a thick fog enveloped the whole area, and he was able to do that in the dead of night. Okay, for your last question. When General Howe was defeated in Boston at the takeover of Dorchester Heights, what was a famous quote that he said when he saw what Washington did in one night? He said, "The rebels have done more in one night than my army could do in months." That's pretty impressive. And the most beautiful part was the Patriots took over Boston. They kicked all the people out of their houses. They opened up the harbor again. They were in charge of Boston once more. And it gave them the boost they needed to then draft the Declaration of Independence. Well, I hope you did great on this quiz. Keep doing it over and over and over again until you learn more about what led to our Revolutionary War. If you are an American or a student of another country, it's important to learn about how America started, because then you'll understand what happened later in our history. I know you've been waiting for Chachi Marie, so I'm going to go home right now and see what she's up to. Well, I'm home. The baseball game is on. And hi, Chachi. What are you doing? Are you watching the baseball game? Do you have on your Chiefs jersey? Oh my goodness. What are you doing? Are you the cutest little pup in the whole puppy world? Yes, you are. Say hi to the children. Hi, guys.